Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when men shall revile you, persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice, be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. Let's bow our heads and pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time this morning. And as we think about the subject this morning of persecution, Lord, may we take advantage of the freedoms and liberties we have. Lord, forgive us for having inhibitions, for speaking the truth, speaking the gospel. Lord, may we make a new commitment to be identified to you, and may we remember those today that are suffering for their faith. In Jesus' name, amen. You may be seated. We're going to look at a little video clip before we get into the message this morning. If you could get those lights, too, so you have to get the clip up there.
Her name is Kim Yoo-jin, age 31. She was born in Pyongyang. Her name is Kim Yoo-jin, age 31. She was born in Pyongyang, North Korea. Kim's testimony is rare considering the numbers on North Korea. The CIA estimates that some 24 million people live in the communist country, and the best guess is about 2% or 480,000 are Christians. Just a handful of them have escaped from the brutal regime and live to tell their story. Kim Yoo-jin is one of them.
Growing up, I was told by the authorities that there was no God in this world. We were ordered instead to worship Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, the leaders of the country.
Freedom of religion is guaranteed under North Korea's constitution, but it's never encouraged. What was it like being a believer in North Korea?
We met every Saturday evening. My family gathered in the back room of our small apartment. We had to be very quiet. We whispered when we prayed, sang songs, or read the Bible. We often covered our heads to muffle the noise.
Growing up, she heard stories of how her city, Pyongyang, was once known as the Jerusalem of the East. In 1945, 13% of the population was Christian. The city was the center of Christianity on the Korean peninsula. Half a century later, Kim's faith made her a target.
My parents often asked me to stay outside the apartment on Saturdays to make sure no one was coming while the family prayed inside. We couldn't allow anyone to know what was going on.
Over time, the meetings grew to include a few friends and extended family.
We had one Bible in the house. My grandmother, who was a believer from the Japanese imperial times, had a Chinese Bible. She translated the Bible by hand into the Korean language on pieces of paper. That's how we read the Bible. We found strength in those pages.
But soon the authorities discovered that her father was a secret believer.
My father was a tailor in town, and the police suspected something was going on. We believed they planted listening devices in his shop and on his clothes.
In 1994, the authorities discovered that Miss Kim's father was operating an underground church in North Korea. So they raided the home, arrested him along with an uncle. Both men probably ended up in one of the 6 labor camps in North Korea. Do you remember that day?
The day my father was arrested, I was at school, but I'll never forget that day. He hugged me before I left for school, and like every other day, he reminded me to be careful. Every morning at the breakfast table, he would tell us that one day the government will come and arrest us for being Christians. He warned us of the price we would someday pay for our faith. I remember him saying often that even if I face death, I will follow Jesus.
Some 200,000 prisoners are being held in political prison camps in North Korea. An estimated 30,000 of them are Christians. The regime is routinely cited for human rights violations. Won Jae-chun is a professor of law in South Korea.
They were treated as a criminals, and especially like a terrorist, and they are prosecuted based on national security crime of North Korea.
This video, obtained by CBN News, reportedly shows the execution of North Korean Christians. Do you think that your father is alive today?
No. Everyone knows what happens when government agents arrest Christians in North Korea. They never make it out alive. I know my father is in heaven. And he's praying for North Korea and my family.
Kim's mother, grandmother, and siblings managed to escape that day to the mountains. In 2005, with the help of a Chinese pastor, she crossed the Tumen River and defected to China. Her family followed months later.
It was a difficult decision. I knew that if I got caught, I'd be arrested and sent to a prison camp. But my family defected because we were being persecuted in North Korea for our faith.
Today she's married and has a baby boy.
I am very proud of what she did. Her family has gone through a lot over the years. She's a hero in my eyes.
Kim is quick to brush aside those compliments, instead giving honor to the man who laid down his life.
I grew up in a land where they said there was no God. But my father told me otherwise. He loved Christ, and for that, he died.
She has a dream to one day go back to Pyongyang and share about this love with the people of North Korea. George Thomas, CBN News, Seoul, South Korea.
Someone has said this: the greatest criticism of the church today is that no one wants to persecute it because there's nothing very much to persecute it about. The last of the Beatitudes are kind of an outflow of all the other Beatitudes, and Jesus brings it to a conclusion when he says, "Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteous sake." He said, "There's the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when men shall revile you and say all manner of evil against you falsely." He said, "For my name's sake," he said, "rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven." Now this seems, we're talking about the blessed life, and we're talking about the transformation that Christ does in our heart, nothing that we can do. But as God continues to transform us, and we are changed, and we become conformed to the image of Christ, there comes a new tension. Because though many people will be influenced and blessed by this transformation, other people will not be happy about it. And so Christ comes to this, the end, and he's talking about that there is going to be difficulties for those that follow Christ. And he gives us a special promise. He says, "Great will your reward be in heaven." Now, we're not going to have time to study that this morning, but the Bible talks about rewards in heaven and different rewards. And so, Jesus here was talking about a radical life, but a radical life can have radical consequences, can't it? And so, he's not saying here that though we get persecuted, that it's not without difficulty. You can tell that this woman was very traumatized, very difficult. Nobody wants to see their father killed. But yet there's great rejoice, great reward. Why? Because, and here's the key element, she loves Jesus. And so the question this morning for us, and the conclusion is going to be, how much do we love Jesus? And how much are we willing to risk living for Him? And how much are we willing to pay the consequences, whatever those are? Now, the first point this morning, doing right makes people uncomfortable. He said, you're going to be persecuted for righteous sake, for doing being right. And we talked about this, that the pure in heart, those that mourn over their sins, and the peacemakers. When you do right, live according to God's commandments and God's laws, and aim to please God, there's going to be those around you that aren't too happy with it. And so it makes people uncomfortable. Now, let me add something this morning quickly. Don't be persecuted for being an idiot. Okay? I mean, sometimes we can do stupid things and we say, oh, we were being persecuted. No, you weren't being persecuted. You were just being an idiot. For example, this is kind of funny. This happened yesterday. Yesterday I was playing basketball, and of course my philosophy was that when I'm playing basketball is the best percentage at a basket is for me shooting the ball. And so, you finally got that. Okay. So I'm playing, and I kind of, the problem with me is if I hit a few shots, then I get greedy. And so I was getting a little greedy, and one of the old guys that plays with us says to me, he says, hey, next Sunday when you preach your sermon, why don't you preach on sharing? I said, yep, maybe I should. And so I started passing the ball a little more. And so I didn't think that was persecution because I was a Christian. I was persecution because I was being a ball hog. And I was being a jerk. Those guys, they all want to shoot too. They didn't want to just watch me shoot the ball. And so, we got to be careful. Sometimes we can be unpleasant, unkind, strange, weird. No, we don't want that. That's not persecution. But if we're going to live for Christ, the Bible says, for everyone who does wicked things, what? Hates the light, is not come to the light, lest his work should be what? Exposed. They should be manifest. They should come to the light. People don't want to see their sins exposed. And so, just living for Jesus, just living as a Christian, is enough to get people to criticize you. I mean, today, all you have to say, and this isn't 20 years, all you have to say is marriage is between a man and a woman. If you say that today, you can be ridiculed. Some people call you a racist. They might even want to call it hate speech. In some places, it's actually been instances where it's called hate speech to quote the Bible and say marriage is between a man and a woman. And yet that's not, like 20 years ago we never would have thought of it. And so he says, even Hillary Clinton said that 20 years ago. you go back and watch the videos. And so things have changed, and so it's going to get harder and harder for us to do right.
Right.
And when we do right, there are going to be people that will be critical, and he said they'll persecute you and say all manner of things against you falsely. Now the second point this morning is we don't know much about persecution today in America. We really don't understand religious persecution. Because in America, there is no state religion. You can be an American and you can be as weird as you want. You can be whatever what you want. You can be religion, you can worship vegetables, you can do whatever. And you're still an American. We accept, even though there is that little bit of that tension for Christians and true Christians, but still there is that acceptance. Okay, that's what you believe. Just leave me alone. You can do whatever you want. Now, when we went to Romania, we understood that there was a state religion. And they traced their religion back to Stephen the Apostle, and they said they were Christians for 2,000 years. If you were Romanian, you're Orthodox. And if you left the Orthodox Church, you were betraying your country. I remember Johnny and Lena, they were living in our house and they were going to public schools. And when they heard that we're staying in a missionary's home, they told Johnny and Lena, get out of their house. They're going to kill you, take your blood and sell it in America. We had support. We weren't that desperate for money. But there were a lot of rumors. They were called Christians repenters. They had a name, Pokis, and so they had a stigmatism. You're one of those repenters, a Poki. And many times in the villages when we would work with children, and the religious teacher from the school would find out that they were going to the Baptist church, they would tell the kids they would flunk them in school if they kept going to the Baptist church. And so that's part of the persecution in some places. Richard Warmbrand wrote in his book, Tortured for Christ, he said it was strictly forbidden to preach to the prisoners. It was understood that whoever was caught doing this received a severe beating. A number of us decided to pay the price for the privilege of preaching. So we accepted their terms. It was a deal. We preached, and they beat us. We were happy preaching. They were happy beating us. So everyone was happy. And so we don't understand today. Sometimes we talk about persecution in America, and that there are definitely parts and places where persecution is heating up. But for the most part today, we don't have persecution in America. If you look at all the congressmen, most of them say they're Christian. And our leaders say they're Christian. Most people say they're Christian. And so for the majority of us, we have the freedom to worship. We have the freedom to talk to other people. We have the freedom. We're not going to risk, we may risk some ridicule. We may risk some opposition. But there are none of us that are in danger that we're going to go to jail and get beaten for preaching the gospel. In fact, we have men like Bob that go and preach in the prison, and they have the freedom to do that. Where there's places, even in prison, they're persecuting you from preaching the gospel. And so, for us, we don't fully understand the depths and the pain and the reality of persecution.
Right.
And it's videos like this and other videos, we'll watch some videos tonight about persecution. It ought to wake us up to realize, wait a minute, I have this tremendous opportunity to preach the gospel freely. I need to do it.
Amen.
I need to do it. So we really don't know much about persecution. And then the third point today, we are persecuted because of Jesus. Notice what he said. You're ridiculed. They say evil things about you for what? My name's sake. Jesus said in John 15, 18, and 19, if the world hates you, know that it has hated me before it hated you. If you are the world would love you as its own, but because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore what? The world what? Hates you. The world hates you because you're not out of it. We're taken out of the world. And so, the fact that you identify with Jesus makes you a target.
That's right.
It's not something you've done. If you can understand that persecution isn't necessarily personal. As soon as you go back to acting and talking like the world, they'll accept you back gladly. But there is, because we believe, first of all, that Jesus is God, that makes people angry. Because we say Jesus is the only way to heaven, makes people freak out.
Right.
You can't say that. We live in a pluralistic society. Everything's right. Everybody's opinion right. There's no absolute truths. Everybody has it. Everybody's on their own train, and all trains lead to heaven. Well, it seems to me, Jesus said, even in the Sermon on the Mount, wide is the gate that leads to destruction. Narrow is the path that leads to God.
Amen.
And so, we're persecuted this morning, not because of something we've done, but because of one thing. Because we love Jesus. The Bible says, if you love me, you'll what? Keep my commandments. Jesus said, if you love me, he talks about if you'll confess me before men, I'll confess you before my Father in heaven. So this morning, we're persecuted because of Jesus. But what happened to Jesus? He was persecuted, wasn't he? Think about Jesus. This is encouragement, probably for all preachers. Everybody preached the gospel. Jesus was the perfect Son of Man without sin. You couldn't criticize him, could you? You couldn't find something wrong. Now, if you look at my life long enough, you'll find something wrong and criticize him. You couldn't criticize him, but yet, he was the perfect Son of God. They still hated him and crucified him. Why? Because the world hates light. That's a reality that will never change until Jesus comes back. Will never change. And we've had, going back to point 2, we've had a unique experience in history of mankind living in a nation with religious freedom, tolerance, where even the government gives tax breaks to churches. And how much churches at one time were the center of society. That's been a tremendous blessing. But if we're not careful, we'll lose those freedoms. So we're persecuted this morning because we love Jesus. Then the fourth point this morning, there are great rewards for those who love Jesus. There's great rewards. And we like to think about the rewards, don't we, today? And it's interesting, the Bible says when Stephen was martyred, they said that Jesus was standing at the right hand of God to meet him. He stood up to meet Stephen when he gave his life for Christ. And so there's a special reward for those who are willing to stand for Christ and to endure and to continue on even in the spite of those who are contrary. He says, I'm willing to go forward. And so when Stephen was martyred as great, Jesus was standing up. And so it's a privilege. That's why so many people that have been martyred count it a privilege. Because not only do they understand the rewards, there's a great comfort God gives to those that suffer for Him. God gives great grace. And we need to think this morning. Do we love Jesus more than we love the things of this world? We live in a consumer society. Okay? We are consumed with getting and obtaining more things because those things somehow should bring us joy. Now, let me ask you a question. What would you do today if you had that new technology item you bought 15 years ago? It's probably in the back room of the church getting ready to be thrown away. Because you wouldn't use it. I mean, I remember my first computer, I spent $1,200, a 286. The guy at the computer said, you got a 40 megabyte hard drive. You'll never need more than that. My phone has 32 gigabytes. It's crazy, isn't it? But it shows us how vain, how empty, how unsatisfying it is trying to be satisfied with the things of this world.
That's right.
That will not be. But Jesus promises great rewards. Rewards that are eternal. Rewards that moth and rust does not corrupt. Rewards that bring satisfaction for eternity. He's talking about great rewards. For those that are willing to stand up and love Jesus. And so, the final point this morning is that following Jesus is not safe. CNN reported that a survey found that there were 7,100 Christians killed in 2015 for faith-related reasons, up 3,000 from the previous year. Jesus said this, then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. So, following Jesus isn't always safe. And if you want to follow Jesus and be safe, you're not going to follow Jesus how he needs to be followed.
That's right.
You need to be willing to follow Jesus wherever that leads and whatever that means. And like the quote I said at the beginning, if we have this opportunity as a church, if we have freedom as a church, we need to really wake up and say, are we going to radically follow Jesus? Or do we just want to have enough for Jesus so we can still be accepted in the world and live a peaceable life and not shake up too many people so we can still have our things in this world? I can remember an incident about 10 years ago. We took a group of teens from our church. We went and helped another Romanian pastor. And we've been to many villages and done meetings, just show up and get people together and have meetings. And so we went to this village. The pastor said, let's go to this village. It's close to us. I want to do some, let's have a meeting there. And so it was this big, long village. It had a road that just, it seemed like it went a long ways. We had made some invitations. And we had a group of teenagers at one end of the village, group of teenagers at the other end of the village. We had a little place back. I think that's the place, the bar. That's where we were going to be, right in front of the bar. The bar only gave us permission to play songs with our guitar. We're going to have a little evangelistic meeting out there. And so we're coming, and so the teens here, so we're coming in the middle. We're going to meet in the middle. And as we go, we'll find that people aren't very receptive, very friendly. And as a teenager were coming back, a couple of people were actually rude to them. And I was sitting there with Nico, and he was getting his guitar, and this guy, that guy right there, he came up with his bike. He said, "Who are you guys? What are you doing? What are you doing here?" And I said, "We're going to have a convention." "Well, you can't do that. Did you get permission from the priest?" And so he left. And about 5 minutes later, he comes back in the car with 4 guys that get out. And they told Nicholas, if you play that guitar, we're going to break it over your head. And so we were trying to talk to him. And then all the teens came back, and we're there. And so then people start coming. But they're not like they want to come and listen to us sing. They're not very friendly. And so I tried the religious liberty strategy. That didn't work. I tried the nice guy strategy. That didn't work. And so I got my camera out. So I'll try the intimidation strategy. And so I started taking pictures. And the lady you see, good I didn't get a picture, but that lady you see, in front of all the teens, we're all there. And they're yelling at us, you can't be here. And she's in front of all the teenagers, moons us, and says, take a picture of this. Don't get that image in your mind, okay, this morning. So, we get in the van, and I looked at the pastor and said, I think we better go. And he says, yeah, let's go. So we get in the van, and they're all stopping around, and so we're leaving the van, and I'm quoting John 3:16 as we're leaving. It probably wasn't the wisest thing to do. But there are places you go that, I don't consider that great persecution, but that's the attitude in some places. That's how it is when we go simply to tell people about Jesus. And so this morning we may need to make a decision. Are we going to stand up and be Christians and love Jesus? Are we going to stand up and be Christians and love Jesus? Nobody likes persecution. Nobody likes to be ridiculed. Nobody likes to be misunderstood. Nobody likes to be made fun of. I certainly don't. But we're going into darkness.
That's right.
We're going into evil. There is evilness in this world. There is darkness in this world. There is sin in this world. There are problems in this world. And it needs to be confronted with boldness.
Amen.
To stand up for Christ. We need to be bold.
Amen.
A lot of times Muslims mock Christians because they're so timid. They're not bold. Standing up for their faith. Listen, we have the Lord Jesus. We have a home in heaven. We have eternal salvation. We have the words of life. We have transformation. We have a new heart. We have a new song to sing. We've been raised out of the depths of sin. God has given us a new name, a new place, and a new purpose in life. We know where we're going. We know who Jesus is. We know who saved us. We don't have anything to be ashamed about.
That's right. Amen.
Let's not let the world get us down and mock us and intimidate us, and we become timid in the face of great wickedness. Because Jesus says, I'll overcome. He's overcome. He'll come back. And as reading Psalm 50 this morning, talked about, in the midst of all these troubles, God still rules.
Right, amen.
God still will overcome. And God will still work. I remember a few years ago, Pastor Yosef from Vitesh called me up, and I was coming back to America, and he wanted me to bring some medicine to his daughter, who was studying here in the States. She had diabetes, and he could get the medicine much cheaper in Romania. And so I went to meet him. I hadn't seen him in quite a while. When I first went to Romania, I would go and speak at his church right outside, in a little village right outside the city of Vitesh. And since then, the Lord blessed him. They built a building in the city. I went to see him, and I was talking to him in his office. And he had given me the medicine, he gave me some money to bring to his daughter who was studying here in America. And then I started talking, and he said, you know, when my daughter was in high school, she developed diabetes, but she never told me why. They would mock and ridicule her because she was a Christian. They would call her a repenter, pokey. And even the religion teacher there, in front of the whole class, would point her out and say, well, they're heretics, and they're, you know, all these rumors, all these things that some of these religious teachers, in all the schools have religion, Orthodox religion. And some of the professors are mild. Some of them, if they know anybody of another religion, especially Baptists, they'll mock them. In fact, I've talked to Christians that have said that the religion, persecution was worse before communism under the Orthodox Church. Borel, the pastor, Dorutsu, the pastor at our church in Constanza, said his grandfather, who grew up in Suceava, when they would baptize, he can remember his grandfather, they would sneak out at night, break the ice in the river, his grandfather was baptized, because they didn't want the police to find out. And so I was telling this pastor, says his daughter became so nervous from all this intimidation that she developed diabetes. And never told him until years later. But you know how God worked that out? She received a full scholarship to university here in America. And she was studying here at that time. I don't think any of those other people got that full scholarship. See, God works all out. You can't kill the church. They're trying. They've tried. In some of these places, we hear all the problems with Islam but there are places, pockets, where people are turning to Christ in droves. Why? Because Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life.
Amen.
He's the way. He's the truth. He's the life. Let's stand up and be Christians. Let's not be ashamed that we're Christians. Let's not avoid it in conversation. Where were you Sunday? Oh, it's true. No. Let's love Jesus. More than man's approval. Let's love Jesus more than comfort. Let's love Jesus more than material things. Let's stand up and love Jesus and see what God can do through a church that's sold out for Jesus. If the church can grow in China and in communist places where there's severe persecution because the people are so sold out to Jesus, what could happen here
That's right.
if we were sold out to Jesus
Amen.
with all our hearts, all our souls. And we could separate ourselves from the American consumer mentality and the me generation and say, you know what? I'm giving it all to Christ. Because all around us there's people with tremendous difficulties and problems. They're not going to find it at the hospital. They're not going to find it at the counseling room. They're not going to find it at the supermarket. The only help they're going to find is the gospel. It just doesn't help people. It transforms them
Amen.
into a new creature. Let's stand up and love Jesus and be Christians. Let's stand together. Heads bowed, eyes closed this morning.